Smoking. It's amazing how in less than 50 years, something that was viewed as so acceptable and ordinary has now turned into an incredibly disgusting habit, and the increasing health risks that have been associated with it have finally been revealed. However, despite all these things, smoking is still a huge issue in America today, with millions upon millions of people consuming more and more cigarettes each year. Now, though this number has decreased in recent years, the amount of smokers is still at a reasonable amount because of the wide sale of cigarettes all over the country and the easy accessibility of these cigarettes. And what's even worse about this is that cigarettes are so highly addictive that it only baits people more into wanting to purchase them again and again. The chemicals in cigarettes are very habit-forming and are easily making dependence on people that desperately need them after they've only had a few. And in some cases, people still view cigarettes as something that makes them cool and improves their self-image. So there's that aspect that appeals to even younger minors that are exposed to cigarettes today. And though the appeal of cigarettes may be gone for some, the health risks are plain for everyone to see. The contents of cigarettes are alarming when studied up close. Cigarettes contain nicotine, which is commonly known as an addictive substance to anyone who's heard of it. But what many people don't know is that nicotine can cause irritability among users, increase blood pressure in all users of nicotine, can contribute to the hardening of the artery walls, increases risk of heart attack, and also can cause severe withdrawal symptoms once an addiction is developed. In Lauren Wilson's article, she mentions how cigarettes also contain the chemicals cadmium and benzene. Now, what's amazing about cadmium is that this chemical is actually the exact same chemical used in most household batteries, if that doesn't give you an idea of how toxic it is. On top of it being used in something as dangerous as a battery, it can increase infection to illness by lowering the immunity of the body once it's been intaken in the system. It also increases chances of kidney and prostate cancer and may also contribute to lung cancer in some cases. Now, as I mentioned, benzene is also in cigarettes, and what's startling about that chemical is that it contributes largely to the development of leukemia, even in entirely healthy patients who have no history of the disease. And it can increase risk of kidney cancer in some minor cases, but when it comes to cancer, there's nothing minor about it whatsoever. Cigarettes also contain chromium-6, which is another form of metal, and increases risk of navel cancer and can cause lung cancer as well. Arsenic is also in many brands of cigarettes, which if anyone's heard of arsenic, it is a poison that's harmful to all living things and should never be consumed under any circumstances. Besides the obviously dangerous contents of all cigarettes, the effects they produce are even more alarming. Lung disease is the biggest cause, or really contribution cigarettes make to all users, and especially with lung cancer. The only minor thing you can really contract from a cigarette when it comes to your lungs is asthma, but that is very rare that it stops there and usually progresses into something far worse. Cardiovascular issues are also a huge consequence of smoking cigarettes, and it is honestly the lead cause of what cigarettes do. It also increases the risk of a heart attack by tenfold. In entirely healthy patients who contribute in smoking, the risk of heart attack increased exponentially, unlike before. In Brian Jamson's article on the dangers of cigarettes, he says that seemingly any kind of cancer can be related to smoking, including lung, blood, cervix, colon, esophagus, kidney, larynx, liver, pancreas, stomach, and trachea. As if these endless amounts of cancer aren't enough to ward off anyone from cigarettes, the effects of these are even more catastrophic on the individual and the families that have to go through this. As if these health risks aren't enough, cigarette withdrawal is another issue on top of all of these risks that many people put themselves under. Breaking the addiction has many adverse effects of its own, including terrible mood, increased aggression, headaches, lack of focus, and constant anger among all users. In Alan Frederick's article on the dangers of smoking, he says the addiction is hardly easily broken, and health is put at even more risk in some cases of withdrawal because it can cause the desire for wanting a cigarette to be even worse than before. And in this case, it's honestly a very sad situation for anyone to be in addiction to be caught in. The best approach to a cigarette is honestly the approach of not at all. The addiction never begins in the first place, and there's no issue to be had. Health is never put at risk, and the risk itself is entirely avoided. And what's so amusing and humorous about our society is that in less than 100 years ago, ads like this were commonly published in everyday magazines portraying cigarettes as something that would be healthy or tasteful or put a fresh scent in your mouth, even putting medical figures as if to endorse the use of them. And it's honestly very comforting that in our modern day society, we've come to know that the dangers of cigarettes are very real and are to be entirely avoided. But still, many people are still affected by them today, and that needs to stop. When it comes to the benefits of cigarettes, the simple answer is that there are none. Cigarettes are destructive to anyone who uses them and to the families who have to see a loved one go through this addiction. Now, the item itself, with the addiction that it begins, there seems to be no end at all in sight once the addiction takes its toll. So all I ask of you today is to say no to smoking and to say yes to a healthy life. Thank you.